There's a kind of tiredness that sleep doesn't fix. You might have noticed it quietly. You wake up, you move through the day, you answer messages, you finish tasks. From the outside, everything still looks normal, but something feels different, not dramatic, not overwhelming, just strangely empty. People call this burnout, but deep down, you may sense that word doesn't quite fit. Burnout usually feels loud, stressful, overloaded. What you might be feeling is quieter than that, almost like life has shifted into autopilot. You're still functioning, still showing up, still doing what needs to be done. But inside, something feels dimmer than it used to. And the confusing part is this: you can't always explain why. If that feeling sounds familiar, stay here for a moment, because what you're experiencing might not be burnout at all. If this is how you've been feeling lately, there's something important to understand. This experience is far more common than people admit. Many people move through long stretches of life feeling exactly like this: quiet, flat, slightly disconnected from themselves. But because everything still looks functional on the outside, it rarely gets talked about. You may still go to work. You may still respond to people. You may still complete everything that needs to be done. And because of that, part of you might wonder if you're imagining the problem. Maybe you've even asked yourself questions like, why do I feel so empty when nothing is technically wrong? Why does everything feel harder than it should? Or sometimes an even heavier thought appears: why can't I feel the way I used to? When those questions show up, it's easy to assume something is wrong with you. But this state doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're failing. And it doesn't mean you've lost something permanently. Sometimes it simply means your mind has been carrying more than anyone realized, including you. For many people, this feeling doesn't arrive suddenly. It slips in quietly. At first, nothing seems very different. Your routine continues. You wake up. You move through the same responsibilities. Conversations happen. Days pass. But slowly, something subtle begins to change. Moments that once felt engaging start to feel neutral. Things you used to look forward to don't quite land the same way anymore. You still participate, you still show up, but inside, the experience feels thinner. Almost like watching your own life from a slight distance. You might laugh with someone and then notice the laugh felt automatic. You might finish a task that once felt meaningful and feel nothing in particular. Not sadness, not even frustration, just a strange emotional quiet. This is why many people miss the early signs, because there isn't always obvious distress. There's simply less feeling, less color in the day, less connection to what used to matter. And yet, the world keeps moving normally around you. People still expect the same version of you. The capable one, the reliable one, the one who handles things. So you keep going, day after day, sometimes without realizing that a part of your inner experience has slowly stepped into the background. And the moment many people finally notice it is surprisingly ordinary. It might happen during a quiet evening, or while driving somewhere familiar, or during a moment that should feel enjoyable. And suddenly a small thought appears. Why does everything feel so distant lately? That question alone can be unsettling, because once you notice it, it becomes harder to ignore. When people try to describe this feeling, the first word that usually comes up is burnout. And that makes sense. Burnout is familiar. It explains exhaustion. It explains stress. But there's a small detail that doesn't always fit. Burnout usually comes with a very clear source. Too much work, too much pressure, too many demands at once. And when someone finally steps away from those pressures, something often begins to change. Energy slowly returns. The mind starts to settle. Even if recovery takes time, rest usually helps. But the experience you might be noticing can feel different. Because sometimes the exhaustion stays even when the pressure isn't extreme anymore. You might take time off. You might sleep more. You might try to slow things down. And yet the strange distance inside you remains. Not intense pain, not overwhelming stress, just a quiet absence of motivation, a lack of emotional spark where something used to exist. That's the part that confuses people, because if this were simple burnout, relief should arrive when the workload drops. But when this deeper kind of fatigue appears, rest alone doesn't seem to reach it. It can feel like the body is present, while the emotional part of you is standing a few steps behind, still watching, still functioning, but not fully connected to the moment. And when this continues for weeks or months, people often begin to question themselves. They wonder if they've lost their drive, or if something inside them has quietly shut down. But what's often happening is more subtle than that. This kind of disconnection usually develops over a much longer stretch of time, often without you realizing it while it's happening. Most people don't suddenly disconnect from their own life. It usually happens gradually, so gradually that it's almost invisible while it's forming. It often begins during long stretches of responsibility, periods where there isn't much space to pause. You focus on what needs to be done. You handle problems as they appear. You keep things moving. Days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, and during that time, you might become very good at functioning. You learn how to keep going even when you're tired. You learn how to push through moments that feel heavy. You learn how to stay reliable for everyone around you. None of this looks unusual from the outside. In fact, people often admire it. They see someone who manages everything, someone steady, someone dependable. But inside, something quieter can start happening. When life becomes mostly about maintaining responsibilities, there isn't always room left for emotional space. Not space to stop, not space to process, not space to feel. So the mind adapts. It begins lowering the emotional volume slightly, just enough to make everything manageable. At first, this can even feel helpful. Things feel calmer, less overwhelming. But if this adjustment continues for too long, the emotional volume doesn't always return to its old level right away. Instead, the days start feeling flatter. You still understand what matters. You still care about people, but the feeling of connection becomes faint. And that's when a strange realization sometimes appears. You're living your life, but parts of it start to feel like you're observing instead of fully experiencing, as if you've become efficient at life while slowly drifting away from the feeling of being inside it. When this emotional distance lasts for a while, a quiet fear can start to grow. You might wonder if something inside you has disappeared, if the part of you that used to feel excitement, curiosity, or warmth has somehow faded for good. But emotional numbness rarely means something is gone. More often, it means something has paused. The mind has a very old habit of protecting itself when things become too heavy for too long. Instead of letting every feeling stay loud and overwhelming, it slowly lowers the volume, not to erase emotions, but to give the system a kind of temporary quiet. The problem is that when this quiet lasts longer than expected, it can start to feel permanent. Days pass, weeks pass, and you begin to forget what it felt like when things had more color. But the ability to feel doesn't vanish that easily. The part of you that notices this distance, the part of you that quietly asks, why does everything feel different lately? That awareness matters because numbness doesn't usually question itself. The fact that you can recognize the change means something inside you is still present, still observing, still waiting for the moment when it feels safe to come forward again. If you've been listening to this and quietly recognizing pieces of yourself, there's something important to remember. The fact that you notice this feeling at all already says something about you. People who are truly disconnected rarely stop to question it. But you did. At some point, a small part of you paused and wondered why life has been feeling different. That moment of awareness matters more than it may seem, because it means you're still here inside your own experience, even if things feel muted right now, even if motivation feels distant, even if the days have started to blur together. This quieter state doesn't define the rest of your life. It's often just a place people pass through when they've been carrying too much for too long without realizing it. And sometimes the first shift doesn't look dramatic. Sometimes it begins with something very small. Just noticing, just listening, just allowing yourself to sit with the truth of how you've been feeling. If a single word describes your state tonight, you can leave it below. No explanations needed, just the word.